What's up guys, Rob Optimal Bodies, sponsored by Damn Fitness, so check them out at damnfitness.com, get some of the clothing and hats etc that I'm wearing today, so cheers to those guys. Okay, today's video is about recovering from injury, or working your way back into the gym. So this is focused on someone that's might have had some sort of injury, just it might have been a freak accident, so they might have been like doing a bench press and they felt the shoulder twinge, or it might just be a repetitive strain injury that slowly got worse and worse over the weeks. It's that little niggle that doesn't seem to go away, and then now and again it really flares up and it prevents you getting into the gym. So what should you do to prevent this from happening again, first of all, and how can you ease your way back into the gym and have productive workouts? So I'm going to use a shoulder injury as an example. Usually that or your back or something is what I see the most and what's really popular, especially with young lads that are trying to bench press heavy all the time. So first of all, if bench press is causing you shoulder pain, stop bench pressing. It's very simple. I know it might be like the worst thing that you can hear, but trust me, I've been there, done it myself. I was out of the game for 3 years because of it. And hopefully my experience on dealing with that sort of pain can come across in this video and help you, and you'll understand. And believe me when I say that it's avoiding the bench press and avoiding the thing that's causing the pain in the first place. That's what we're wired to do. You put your hand in a fire, you burn your hand. You will not do that again. Like little babies learn from it. They ingrain that memory in the brain because that's the pain. So don't let it, but the problem in the gym is that everyone asks how much you bench. Everyone's queuing up for the bench, especially Monday, International Chest Day. And ego gets the best of us, and most of us are going to get on the bench even though it causes pain. I've spoken to people before in the past that they know damn well it causes the pain, but they still do it and they just want to be able to bench. Much more effective exercise. Anyway, there's previous videos on bench press and why it causes pain, the mechanics. So this is going to be just use an example. So say the front of your shoulder, you're getting really bad pain. Probably going to be the long headed bicep, some sort of subacromial impingement. So your tendons that go through this tiny space can get trapped with. Might be movements over that high or out in front. You're reaching for something off the shelf. You're washing your hair. Just getting some sort of shoulder pain, and it's stopping you from going to the gym. And you've rested it, started to ease off, and you want to know the best way to get back into it. First of all, if you already haven't, I recommend do not use ice. Ice is something that causes your blood vessels to constrict, so you get vasoconstriction. And when you've got an injury, there's a damage site, say the tendons getting damaged, your body responds with an inflammatory soup, it's called, and you get vasodilation. So blood is allowed into the area because you're trying to get nutrients and more proteins, etc., to cause the recovery process to allow it to heal. And you're just doing the opposite by putting ice on. Yes, it can numb the pain, but it's very short term, very acute, and it can cause further problems down the line and prolong the healing. So I'll probably make a future video on this in detail, but I would not use ice. I'd use heat, if anything. I won't even use anti-inflammatories because that's going to cause the same problem. You're blocking the healing and not dealing with the problem. Pain is there for a reason. I would say just see through the pain, even though your memory and everything that you've took paracetamol in the past is telling you to do so. But in the long run, I think that's worse. So I'd avoid that. If you haven't, it doesn't matter. You can stop doing it now, hopefully. So let's say it's eased off a little bit and you want to get back into the gym, your shoulder's been hurting. What should you do? The worst thing you could do, obviously, is go really heavy or do a lot of work. Say like might do an hour on shoulders. You want to slowly build that back up. That tendon might be slightly frayed. You need loading to stimulate it to grow and thicken. That's our body. It's always turning over. It's our cells, muscle tissue, etc. So we need to use it. If you don't use it, you lose it. So rest is important, but don't rest for too long. Don't be scared to get back into the gym. That's what I'd say, because I've been through that myself, and you just seem to get weaker and weaker. You end up guarding it and scared of using it. So as soon as you can, get back in there, but slowly progress it. So you might go in and just do 10-15 minutes. You might do one exercise. Say you might do a standing barbell press. It's a very functional movement for your shoulder. If it's your back, you might do some really gentle deadlifts. And it's important you do it in a pain-free range. So that means that during the full range of movement, you're not causing too much pain. It might be slightly uncomfortable, but your body isn't saying stop doing this. So if you can only get up to there and it doesn't hurt, then I'd work in that pain. Next week, try and get a little bit higher. And the same we go in depth-wise. If you can only get to about there for a stretch and it's not painful, work in that range. if anywhere below there's painful, stay out of that range and slowly try and work yourself into it. So I do one exercise 1 week, the week after you might put some lateral raises in or something. If it's progressing very nicely, you might do fuller range. So your aim is to try and get full range of movement and slowly progress it over the weeks by adding sets and exercises and not being too... Don't be too over eager to try and do a full workout like you used to do before. You're probably going to cause loads of pain, you'll have to rest for longer, and you're slowly trying to build up a tolerance in your tissues to respond to the weight. And before you know it, you'll be back being able to train every day if that's what you want to do. And then pain will no longer be in your life and you can get stronger and bigger and continue with your goals. And hopefully you've learnt from it and you've avoided exercise that cause the pain and you've avoided certain planes of movement that might be causing that pain. Okay, so that's just very simple, but it can be very effective. Going back to, don't be scared of using, say it's your shoulder. If you're in shoulder pain and it's just picking something out the shelf, or like say washing your hair or something, and that's causing a little niggle, don't be scared and have to use your opposite hand all the time, because you'll start to get too much work done on this side, and most importantly, your brain will associate movements with pain. So that's why I say stay out the pain-free range. If you're doing this and it's really hurting every time, and you just go home and do the similar sort of movement, reaching into a shelf, or every time you train, your body learns a pattern, and even if there's no pain there, there's no damage, if there's no damage, it can set off a pain cycle, and you get stuck into this chronic pain syndrome type, which is what I think I got myself into, because I was guarding my shoulder too much. I got to a point where I didn't even lift it. I was walking and just using one arm when I was walking. I wouldn't even dare swing it, and that it just got really painful. It just sat there not moving it. It was just throbbing away. It had been 2 or 3 years. I'd had MRI scans, and I knew there were no damage. I've been told there's no damage, but your brain still thinks there's a problem because you're teaching it to be guarded and wary. So your brain is much more powerful than what's actually going on in the tissues. So yes, if you've injured something and it's only a couple of weeks, there might be some damage there. Let it heal, and you shouldn't be no longer than that. If you're really concerned, see your GP, physio, get a scan, go privately if you're having to wait weeks if you can afford it, because that'll rule it out. And once you know there's no damage there, it really helps you, just your mindset of saying, all right, I can use this. I should be able to wash my hair without thinking this is going to tear my tendon. You're not lifting a big 50-kilogram dumbbell above your head. So put it in perspective. Don't be scared of using it for everyday movements. Same with your back. You should be able to bend down and pick something up, and it's not a 200-kilogram deadlift. So don't work in a pain range if it's really painful. Sorry, something came up on my phone then, I had to get it off. Don't work in a really painful range, but if it's just a slightly sort of niggly and you're just a bit wary, don't worry, I'd work in that range, as long as it's not really saying, get off me, do not do this movement. So yeah, you want to ingrain a really good technique once you get back in the gym, because that might be why you went into this pain in the first place. So if you're doing shoulder press, and say you might have been bounced at the bottom or something like that, go back, look at your technique, start really slow and light, control it down so you're not getting excess movement in your joint capsule or your tendons not putting under further strain. It might be if you've got a back pain, and it might be you've been doing lat raises but you've been swinging back and using momentum in your back and you're getting back pain. So start really strict and light and get that technique ingrained. The more you do a good technique, the less the bad technique will come into play. So it's just repetition. As a baby's learning to crawl and walk, it gets better and better. The more you do a certain movement, the more that's the one that's going to be your chosen movement when you're doing it in everyday life. So don't ingrain this bad pattern. So start with a good pattern and get rid of the old one. Okay. So, and my last thing that I wanted to talk about was not using compensation patterns. So say it's your shoulder that's painful, you're reaching up towards the shelf and you can't get that, or you're doing a shoulder press, as a better example. You're doing a shoulder press and you can't get that end range overhead, so you arch back, so you're sacrificing the joints in your back to get that last bit of range of motion because your shoulder's restricted. So what would I work on? I'd probably do a bit of gentle stretching to try and increase that range of movement, rather than having my back complete that last few degrees, because again, that's going to ingrain a bad motor pattern. Every time you reach up, your body will think it has to use its back, and that's what the back pain can be caused by. So instead of that, you need to go to the root problem, which is that last few degrees of your shoulder range removed. Is it your tight lats? Is it your long head of tricep? anything that's restricting flexion, which is that movement, so it's usually your extension, the opposite muscles that might be tight, or they might just be weak and not used to that movement. So again, just lie on the floor. You can practice getting your arms back as far as you can in a pain-free range, and everything will start to loosen off. Do that before the gym, nice and gentle. Maybe stretch between sets, do it after the gym, and your back will stop having to compensate. So go back and watch this video over again if there's a lot of information crammed in at one time, and you can slowly build your way back up into the gym. And basically the main message is go light, good technique, be sensible and ingrain these good techniques. Stop sacrificing other joints to compensate for the lack of range of movement. Deal with the problem, which is the lack of range, direct at the issue at the joint that's getting bothered by. Okay? Any questions on this, or you think it's a different joint, or it's something completely different and specific to your issue, that problem that you're occurring, drop me a message and hopefully we can have a chat and come up with some examples that can help you work your way back into fitness and towards your goals. Please like and share my page. Cheers for listening, guys. Ta.